So welcome to Lesson 8, Masks and Channels. So go ahead and download your photos from Lesson 8, then unzip them and open them both up in Photoshop directly. So this is one of the few times that we'll actually open them directly in Photoshop and not in Bridge first. So you should have a runner and a picture of the beach. So go to Window, Arrange, and 2-up vertical. And what it'll do is it'll open up both images in one working space. So you see there's a tab on one side and a tab on the other. We'll click on the beach photo, click on the beach thumbnail, and just drag it over to the runner and drop it on it. And then you can go up to the beach tab and close it. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the photo of the beach the same proportions as the photo of the runner, because that's the working space that we're going to use for this week and for next week. So I'm just going to drag the corners here and make it the correct size. So I'm going to bring it up to here because I want this to be kind of the edge, and I'm just going to bring it up so that here you have the beach, the trees, the sky, and a little tiny bit of the ocean. Actually, I'll bring a little bit more so I can see a little bit more of the ocean there. Looks good right there. Once you're done, you can either double click in the middle or click the check mark in the option bar at the top. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the background of the runner, and we're going to place the runner on the beach. But first we need to make the runner a regular layer. So we're going to right click on it and duplicate, and we're going to call it runner. And then we're going to drag that layer above the beach layer so it's on the very top. To remove the background here, we could go in and use the erase tool, but we're going to actually make a mask with it. So we're going to go select and mask. So what it does is it then hides the image until you set the mask. So project up here. So it'll analyze the layer that you have on the top and selected. It'll figure out what the subject is, and then it will make a mask around it. So in the past, what we had to do is manually do all this. We'd use these tools. We'd use the quick selection tool, the refined edge tool, and the paintbrush tool. So now I'm going to scroll in and look at everything. And I notice that there's a little bit of a white line around her. I notice her chest right here isn't solid. But you can see all that as we go through. So what we're going to do is we're going to look through the different views. So this is the on layer view. The onion skin view is probably what you got if you've never opened this before, but you can just slowly go through and cycle through them all by using the F key. So we're going to go to this one, and you can definitely see that there's some issues here in her chest. They actually look a little bit translucent. So we're going to scroll in, and I'm going to go to the brush tool, and I'm just going to paint that back in because that should be solid. It shouldn't be like hair. Or if you notice the hair, it's a little bit on the edge there. So then I'm going to scroll through. I'm going to hit the F key, and I'll go to the next view, and that's the view I want. And we're going to use some of these global refinements. But before we do that, let's actually refine her hair. So the second tool down on the end is the refine brush tool. And what it'll do is it'll analyze the hair and then try to make the best selection. So if your brush is too small, you can use the bracket keys on the keyboard next to the P key and just go through and refine the hair. And I'm just going to go through this. And you may not notice any difference. I see a little bit of difference, but in the past, there, I saw a little bit right there. In the past, this was a really great tool, but because the select subject tool or select subject tool has gotten so much better in the last couple versions that you may not even need to do this. So at this point, your mask looks pretty good. It just needs to be tweaked. So you can tune the overall experience by editing the global refinement adjustment settings. And we are going to select smooth to 5, and that'll smooth out some of our hard edges on our selections. And we're going to add contrast plus 20%. And you can see the contrast really affects, especially the edges of the hair. You can see how, as I slide back and forth, the higher the number, the less like white space around the hair it becomes. I'm going to put it at 20%. And then I'm going to shift the edge. Now, shift edge means you could add to the selection or remove from the selection. I'm going to just shift it to, you can see here how the difference is. I'm going to put -15, and I'm going to call that pretty good. And we're going to go down to the output settings. Now, if output settings looks like this and it doesn't have anything, just click on the arrow, and we're going to decontaminate colors. And watch, as soon as we click on this, the hair is going to change again. And you can see, oh, that looks a lot better, but it's kind of blunt. So let's just knock down the amount to, I'm not sure. Let's see here. Probably about 60%, I think. That looks a lot better. And then output 2, and that's how it's going to handle the photo when you're done, or these layers. So we're going to make a new layer with a layer mask, and when we do that, it's going to hide the old layer so you don't see it. So I'm going to hit OK, and you'll see, bam, it made a new layer with a layer mask here. You could always go back and do everything again with this layer, but it just makes a copy of it. And again, it's non-destructive, so if you don't like something, you can always go back and change it. So now we're going to make a copy of this, okay? So in the layers panel here, control click on a PC or command click on the mouse, or sorry, command click on a Mac on the icon itself of the layer mask. This makes the selection, this makes a selection. So when I control click on this, it puts a selection around it. And then in select up here, go down to save selection. And hit OK. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a shadow of her. So we throw a shadow on the beach itself. I'm going to scroll down. Actually, I'll just pop out so I can see it. We're going to go to New Layer. And we're going to rename it Shadow. And then we're going to drag that layer below the runner copy. And I'm going to hide this layer here. Go to Select and Mask. And we're going to shift the edge to plus 36%. And we're going to output to a selection and hit OK. And there we have it. A selection that's a little bit bigger. So in the Edit menu here, we're going to go to Fill. And content should be black. And the content should be black. Now, there's a couple different ways of doing it, but we'll leave the opacity at 100% on this one because we could always change the layer opacity if we wanted to make it less than 100%. So go ahead and hit OK. And here we have the shadow. Now the shadow doesn't look like a shadow. It looks like a silhouette of the runner. We'll now fix that. So I'm going to show the runner again, and then I'm going to go with the shadow layer still active. I just turned the eye on. I want to then go Edit, Transform, Skew. And then I'm going to grab the little boxes, and then I'm going to skew the shadow. Now, if it's snapping like this, see how it snaps? You could go under View and make sure the snap is turned off. I had already done it on a previous one, so it is snapped. Sometimes it'll snap a little bit, but it doesn't look bad here. I'm going to probably bring this down just a hair more. I want to see a little bit more of the actual head like that. And once you're done, just hit the check mark or double click inside the selection here. And then we're going to adjust the opacity of the layer. So with the shadow layer, we'll just take the opacity and knock it down to about 30%. And now it's starting to look a little bit more like a shadow. We can bump it up if we think it's too light. It's not a big deal. Now the shadow's really sharp right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect. So we can see it, and you can see every little detail. And shadows aren't like that. So let's make a tilt blur. So we're going to go to the filter, and we have to make sure to select the layer of the shadow is selected. Go to filter, blur, and look in the blur gallery as a tilt shift blur. Now, we're going to only use half of this because this is really designed to be blur up on top and blur on the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're just going to move this. Spin it how I want. And this is how much blur there is. See how it's blurring here? I'm going to actually move this down further. And then I'm going to make the blur a little bit less. And see how it's sharp on the bottom and blurred on the top? That just makes it look a little bit more realistic. And what your settings on the blur is, I gave you some settings in the written lesson, but whatever you think looks good is good for me. I think that it really comes down to personal taste. And once you're done with that, just hit OK. And then we can select off of it. And that looks pretty good. So now let's just go ahead and save it. I skipped that step earlier. I should have had you save it a little bit earlier. But here, go to File, Save As. And it's okay. You can't save it as a JPEG. It was a JPEG before, but now it's going to have to be a Photoshop document. And it'll always warn you. And we're going to call it Lesson 8 underscore masks. And then it's going to be a .psd file. You can just save it right in your lesson where you were working out of. It's going to always tell you that it's going to maximize compatibility, which is fine. So now let's change the color of the pants because she's in a purple, and let's just try to make them blue. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in so we can see her pants real well. We'll make the runner layer active. And we will select the quick selection tool. And then we'll just click on it. Now notice that it picked up here. So we'll just, I'm going to use the Alt key, and I'm going to select down. On a Mac, you'd use the Option key, and just make sure you have everything you want. See, there's a little bit of selection up here. Use the Alt key and undo that. I'm going to go in here, here. Looks a little bit better. It's still not quite selected, so I'm going to small, make my brush smaller, and the system will always ding. And just go here and change that. Now I'm going to use the Alt key again, try to refine it a little bit more. That looks pretty good. And I'll pull back. And we're going to go to Edit, Fill. And contents should be color here. And we'll select the color. And then we're going to do 4747 FF, which is a very brilliant blue. And we'll hit OK. And then we'll make sure our blending is set to overlay. and opacity 75% and hit OK. And it looks a lot better. So by blending it and using that overlay, it won't just block the color and knock all the detail. It overlays the details. So that looks a lot better. Then we just go ahead and select, deselect, and it looks a lot like it's almost natural. Well, it looks natural. Now let's go ahead and file, save. Okay, so the next part of this project is let's actually change the direction of her head. So I'm gonna view so I can see the whole thing. So I'm gonna hit Control 0 or Command 0 on a Mac. And we're gonna use what they call Puppet Warp. That'll allow you to actually warp part of the selection. So click on the layer, the runner, and I'm actually going to change this to new runner. So it's not confusing. And we'll click on that, and then we're going to go to Edit menu, the Puppet Warp. And what it'll do is it will give you a grid pattern. And up on here, there's different options in the option bar. We're going to select more points. And what it does is it gives you more points to actually manipulate. And it's a finer manipulation. So we're going to start at the bottom here, and we're going to set pins all the way across. And those pins will separate and put anchor points in there. So anything set inside the points is safe. So we'll start by going around the bottom, around the outside of her body, crossing at her neck, where we're going to use the puppet warp, and then we're going to continue putting the pins all the way down the bottom to her legs. You don't have to include the wires or her right arm, but we're going to do it anyways, just to be safe. The right arm, I think we can leave separate. So, but the wires we'll definitely want to include. So I'm gonna zoom in so we can see what we're doing. We're gonna start putting points. Now, if you can't get it to start putting a dot, just right click and add a point. You just have to be patient because it does take a little bit of time. Just to be safe, I'm just going to go around the arm because I don't want any unforeseen issues while I'm doing this as an example for you guys. Now that I'm up to her neck, I'm going to cut across here. So once you're done, then I'm going to scroll back out and go up to this spot up here. And select where I want it to rotate from. Select this one, and I'm going to hold the Alt key down on the PC, Option key on the Mac, and you'll see a round circle appears around it, and you can rotate it then. Here. Let me go back so you can see it. See, as I rotate, I can make her head go forward, bad runner form, or back, like she's trying to get air or win. She's winning or something like that. So I rotated it to about, I don't know. Initially, I said 46 degrees. I think I'd put it probably more like 105. Keep it like that. It's listed right here in the option bar. And then once you're done, just hit the check mark. Then I'm going to set it back like that. That looks a lot better. I think it looks pretty cool from the original. So we'll save it, go save as, and make sure it's lesson 8 underscore mass.psd, and go ahead and hit save. And if it says replace it, go ahead and replace it, and go ahead and turn that in for the lesson. Now, we also need to save it because next week we're going to start using this photo and we're going to make a magazine cover using it. So keep this photo. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I'll talk to you next week.